My dear friends, I stand before you today to discuss a matter of great importance, one that may at first seem contrary to everything you've been taught to believe. You've likely heard it said time and time again that you have a right to happiness. It's a comforting notion, isn't it? The idea that somewhere, etched into the very fabric of the universe, is a guarantee of your personal joy and satisfaction. But what if I were to tell you that this belief, this expectation of happiness as a right, is not only misguided but potentially harmful to your very well-being? Now, I can see the furrowed brows and quizzical looks. You might be thinking, surely he can't mean that. Don't we all deserve to be happy? And to that I would say, yes, we all deserve good things in life, but deserving something and having an inherent right to it are two very different matters. The truth, my friends, is that you have no right to happiness. And embracing this truth, as uncomfortable as it may seem, is the first step towards a more fulfilling. But before we can fully grasp why the notion of happiness as a right is flawed, we must first understand what happiness truly is. What comes to mind when you think of happiness? Is it the fleeting joy of a child opening presents on Christmas morning? The sense of accomplishment after achieving a long-sought goal? Or perhaps the quiet contentment of a peaceful evening spent with loved ones? You see, happiness is not a singular, unchanging state. It's a spectrum of emotions, experiences, and perceptions. It's as varied and complex as life itself. And herein lies the first problem with the idea of happiness as a right. How can we claim a right to something so indefinable, so subjective? Consider for a moment two individuals. The first finds joy in solitude, in quiet contemplation and introspection. The second thrives on social interaction, drawing energy and happiness from being surrounded by others. Can we say that one person's happiness is more valid, more of our right than the others? Of course not. Happiness, in its myriad forms, is as unique to each individual as their fingerprint. Moreover, true happiness, the kind that sustains us through life's ups and downs, is not a constant state of euphoria. It's not the absence of negative emotions or experiences. Rather, it's the ability to find meaning and purpose even in the midst of life's challenges. It's the quiet strength that allows us to weather storms and emerge stronger on the other side. Now, let's consider the danger of entitlement, of believing that happiness is something owed to us by the universe. This belief, my friends, is a treacherous path that leads not to joy, but to disappointment and disillusionment. Imagine, if you will, a young person entering the workforce, fresh-faced and full of expectations. They believe they have a right to a fulfilling career, to immediate success and recognition. How do you think they will fare when faced with the inevitable setbacks, the mundane tasks, the slow climb up the career ladder? Will their belief in their right to career satisfaction serve them well, or will it breed resentment and frustration? Or consider a relationship where both partners believe they have a right to constant happiness. What happens when disagreements arise, as they inevitably do, when compromise is needed, when patience is tested? The belief in a right to happiness can lead to a dangerous sense of entitlement, to an unwillingness to work through difficulties, to grow and evolve together. You see, when we believe happiness is our right, we place the responsibility for our emotional state on external factors. We become passive recipients, waiting for happiness to be handed to us on a silver platter. But life, my friends, doesn't work that way. Happiness, when it comes, is not a gift from the universe. It's something we cultivate, something we work towards, something we choose to suit us to a crucial point, the pursuit of meaning over happiness. Now, you might be wondering, aren't they the same thing? But I assure you they are not. Happiness is an emotion, fleeting and dependent on circumstance. Meaning, on the other hand, is enduring. It's what gets us out of bed in the morning, what pushes us to persevere in the face of adversity. Think about the times in your life when you felt most fulfilled. Was it when everything was easy, when happiness came effortlessly? Or was it when you overcame a challenge, when you pushed yourself beyond what you thought possible? I'd wager it was the latter. Consider the parent who sacrifices sleep to care for a sick child. In that moment, are they happy? Probably not. They're likely exhausted, worried, perhaps even frustrated. But would they trade that experience for a night of uninterrupted? Of course not, because in that act of care, in that sacrifice, they find meaning. Or think of the athlete pushing their body to its limits in pursuit of excellence. The grueling training sessions, the strict diets, the early mornings and late nights, these don't bring immediate happiness, but they bring something far more valuable, a sense of purpose, of growth, of becoming more than. You see, when we shift our focus from the pursuit of happiness to the pursuit of meaning, we open ourselves up to a much richer, more fulfilling life experience. We become active participants in our own stories rather than passive observers waiting for happiness to find us. But this shift in perspective requires something that many of us have been conditioned to avoid: embracing struggle and discomfort. In our modern world, we're surrounded by messages telling us to seek comfort, to avoid pain at all costs. But what if I told you that it's precisely in those moments of discomfort that we grow the most? Think back to a time when you faced a significant challenge. Perhaps it was learning a new skill, overcoming a fear, or navigating a difficult life transition. In the midst of that struggle, you probably didn't feel happy. You might have felt frustrated, scared, or overwhelmed. But when you came out on the other side, when you looked back at what you'd overcome, didn't you feel a sense of pride, of accomplishment, of growth? That, my friends, is the beauty of embracing struggle. It's in those moments of discomfort that we discover our true strength, our resilience, our capacity for growth. When we shy away from challenges in the name of preserving our happiness, we rob ourselves of these opportunities for growth. Now, I can almost hear the objections forming in your minds, but surely you might be thinking we have some control over our emotional state. Isn't there a role for choice in our pursuit of happiness? And to that, I would say, absolutely. In fact, the role of choice in our emotional state is one of the most powerful tools we have at our disposal. You see, while we may not have a right to happiness, we do have the ability to choose our response to the circumstances of our lives. This is not to say that we can simply decide to be happy and make it so. Emotions are complex things, influenced by a myriad of factors beyond our control. But we can choose how we frame our experiences, how we interpret the events of our lives. Consider two individuals facing the same challenge. Let's say losing a job. The first person might choose to view this as a catastrophe, a sign of personal failure, a reason to despair. The second might choose to see it as an opportunity for growth, a chance to explore new paths, a catalyst for positive change. Same circumstance, two very different emotional responses, the different choice. This power of choice extends beyond our immediate reactions to events. It's also about the choices we make in our daily lives. The choice to cultivate gratitude, to focus on the positive aspects of our lives rather than dwelling on the negative. The choice to engage in activities that bring us joy and fulfillment, rather than those that merely distract us from discomfort. The choice to surround ourselves with people who uplift and inspire us, rather than those who bring us. But perhaps one of the most important choices we can make is how we respond to adversity and pain. Life, my friends, is not always kind. It will present us with challenges, with heartaches, with moments of profound difficulty. And in those moments, we have a choice. We can choose to be crushed by our pain, or we can choose to learn from it. Think of a time when you experienced a significant loss or failure. In the immediate aftermath, you likely felt a range of negative emotions: sadness, anger, perhaps even despair. But as time passed, as you gained perspective, did you not also gain wisdom? Did that experience not teach you something valuable about yourself, about life, about resilience? You see, pain and adversity are some of life's greatest teachers. They show us our own strength. They deepen our empathy for others. They clarify our values and priorities. When we approach our difficulties with an attitude of openness and learning, we transform them from mere suffering into opportunities for growth. This is not to say that we should seek out pain or celebrate suffering. Far from it. But when pain inevitably comes, as it does to all of us, we can choose to face it with courage and curiosity rather than resentment and despair. Now, let's talk about something that might seem at odds with our discussion of pain and adversity: gratitude. You might be wondering, how can I be grateful when life is difficult, when I'm not happy? But I would argue that it's precisely in those moments of difficulty that gratitude becomes most. You see, gratitude is not about ignoring the negative aspects of our lives. It's not about forcing a smile when we feel like crying. Rather, it's about choosing to focus on the good that exists alongside the bad. It's about recognizing that even in our darkest moments, there are things to be thankful. Think about your life right now. Yes, there may be challenges, there may be disappointments, but are there not also blessings? The warmth of the sun on your face, the kindness of a friend, the ability to breathe, to think, to feel. These are not small things, my friends. They are miracles happening every day. When we cultivate gratitude, we shift our perspective. We begin to see the world not as a place that owes us happiness, but as a place filled with wonders and opportunities. And in doing so, we often find that contentment, a close cousin of happiness, follows naturally. The need to reframe our expectations of life. So often, our unhappiness stems not from our circumstances themselves, but from the gap between our expectations and reality. We expect life to be easy, to be fair, to conform to our desires. And when it doesn't, as it often doesn't, we feel cheated, disappointed, unhappy. But what if we changed our expectations? What if, instead of expecting constant happiness, we expected life to be challenging, but also filled with opportunities for growth and meaning? What if, instead of expecting the world to cater to our desires, we expected to be challenged, to be pushed out of our comfort zone? This is not about lowering our standards or settling for less. It's about aligning our expectations with the reality of the human experience. It's about recognizing that a life well lived is not one free of difficulties, but one in which we face those difficulties with courage and grace. Consider the story of a young person dreaming of becoming a great musician. If they expect the path to be easy, to be all about the applause and the accolades, they're setting themselves up for disappointment. But if they expect years of practice, of frustration, of slowly improving their craft, then each small improvement becomes a victory. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to grow. You see, when we reframe our expectations, we open ourselves up to finding joy and satisfaction in unexpected places. We learn to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. We find beauty in the struggle, meaning in the effort. That brings us to a beautiful truth. The joy that we earn, that we work for, is far sweeter than any happiness that might be handed to us as a right. Think about it. Which tastes better? A meal you cooked yourself, putting in time and effort and creativity, or a ready-made meal pulled from a box? Which feels more satisfying, reaching a goal you've worked hard for, or being handed an achievement you didn't? There's a depth to earned joy that cannot be matched by easy pleasure. It's the difference between the fleeting high of winning a lottery and the deep satisfaction of building a successful business from the ground up. It's the difference between the shallow happiness of receiving a compliment and the profound joy of knowing you've made a real difference in someone's life. This earned joy is something that no one can take away from you. It's not dependent on external circumstances or the whims of fate. It's a result of your choices, your efforts, your perseverance. And that, my friends, is far more valuable than any supposed right to happiness. But what about those times when joy seems far away? When we're faced with unhappiness, with disappointment, with loss? This is where resilience comes into play. Resilience is not about avoiding unhappiness. It's about bouncing back from it, about finding our footing, even when the ground beneath us seems to shift. Cultivating resilience is like building a muscle. It requires consistent effort. It involves some discomfort, but it makes us stronger in the long run. How do we build this resilience? By facing our challenges head-on, by learning from our setbacks, by maintaining hope even in difficult times. Think of a time when you faced a significant setback. In the moment, it might have felt overwhelming, insurmountable. But you're here now, aren't you? You survived. You found a way through. That experience, as painful as it might have been, it showed you that you can handle more than you thought possible. This resilience, this ability to weather life's storms, is far more valuable than any guarantee of constant happiness. It's what allows us to find meaning and purpose even in the midst of difficulty. It's what enables us to keep moving forward, to keep growing, to keep living fully even when happiness feels out of reach. The importance of finding purpose beyond personal happiness. You see, when we make happiness our primary goal, we often end up feeling unfulfilled. But when we focus on something larger than ourselves, cause we believe in, people we care about, work that matters to us, we often find that a deep sense of satisfaction follows naturally. Like, think about the times in your life when you felt most alive, most fulfilled. I'd wager that these were times when you were focused not on your own happiness, but on something beyond yourself. Perhaps it was losing yourself in creative work, or dedicating your efforts to helping others, or striving to make a positive difference in the world. This sense of purpose, this connection to something larger than ourselves, gives our lives meaning and direction. It provides a compass to navigate the ups and downs of life. And ironically, in pursuing purpose rather than happiness, we often find a deeper, more enduring form of contentment than we ever could by chasing happiness directly. So, my friends, as we conclude our time together, I urge you to embrace this truth. You have no right to happiness, but you have something far more valuable: the ability to create a life of meaning, of purpose, of earned joy. You have the power to choose your responses, to learn from your struggles, to find beauty and growth in even the most challenging circumstances. Life is not about being happy all the time. It's about experiencing the full range of human emotions and experiences, about growing and learning and contributing to the world around us. It's about facing our challenges with courage, about loving deeply even though it makes us vulnerable, about striving for what matters even when the path is difficult. So go forth, not in pursuit of happiness as a right, but in pursuit of a life well lived. Embrace the struggles, learn from the pain, celebrate the joys, find your purpose, cultivate resilience, practice gratitude, and in doing so, you may just find that happiness, not as a constant state, but as moments of joy and contentment sprinkled throughout a meaningful life, comes to you naturally, not as a right, but as a beautiful earned gift.